Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Time for a blog update. Wow, it's getting real now. All this 5-6 months of training and the event is in sight. Big training kilometres have been banked and lots of research being done, and it's not too long now until I line up on that start line in Normandy and put it all together. Am I ready? So, less than 20 days to go, under 3 weeks. In 3 weeks' time, all being well, I will have successfully navigated riding through an entire night without sleep and potentially be maybe 200 kilometres into this 900 kilometre ultra. I've got so many things spinning in my head about it, and I've overthunk things a million times, and to be honest, the best time's actually just been when I've been out here riding in these amazing mountains. We've actually had a run of wet weather days, and the last month really has been pretty wet on and off, but we also have had some spectacular days here, and I've managed to string together a few consistent big weeks of riding, get these legs in tip-top shape. I'm in what's called the Gorge de Luz here. It's the Gave de Gavigny. Sneaky little diversion for those who are interested in Tour de France climbs. This road here leads to the very, well, possibly one of the most famous mountain passes in all of France, the Col de Tourmalet, and along with a number of others. But if you come to France to ride a road bike and ride the tour climbs, this will be the road you'll be on. See here all the netting there. That's for all the rock falls that do occur on this road, and avalanches and whatnot. And it's a spectacular road, and because the Tour de France comes here so often, the surface is silky smooth. But look at that beautiful water in the river, sort of beautiful ice blue. Yoo! Whee! You know me, I can't go through a tunnel without making the tunnel noises. So not too long now till I line up for the event, and whilst all the big training days are now well and truly done with.
Not a climb I recommend using tri bars for.
Anyway. I guess most complex part is really starting to come out in true force to me, in true colours, and that's the route planning. Boy oh boy, have I spent many hours deciphering different route mapping software, looking at Google Maps, Street View, and everything, trying to figure out the best way of joining these 9 checkpoints together. And here we come into tunnel number 2. Yoo! So, turns out route planning doesn't come naturally to me, and it's a bit more complex than I thought, of just pinging every single checkpoint into the software and letting it create a nice route for you to follow. It's been really complex to me. So to date I've now used, well, I guess if you include Google Maps, 4 types of route software. I've used Strava, I've used Ride with GPS, and I've also used Komoot, and actually Komoot's the one I'm using the most now. So yeah, route planning, who would have thought it would cause me such a conundrum? So I first went into Google Maps, got all the 9 checkpoints off the Normandicat website and plotted them all so I could sort of see it on a broad sort of map sort of perspective. I starred them so that I could actually look at the map and look at the checkpoints individually, and you can see there's a logical route to follow. Then I went on to Strava first because I've used Strava quite significantly for all my routes. I've got loads of routes in Strava, and one by one I started putting together what I thought was a good sort of route plan. I purposefully put it onto fastest possible, avoiding gravel surfaces and all those sort of selections, and thought I came up with a pretty good route. Then once I had my route in Strava, I thought I'll download the GPX file and put it into Ride with GPS, because in Ride with GPS I can then have a look at the route and activate the Google Street View person and then actually see what roads I'm going on. And all was going really well until I noticed that Strava, in all its infinite wisdom, has diverted me onto roads that bikes are not allowed to legally go on. And it's funny, at first I thought there's a particular bridge that crosses the Seine. I thought, I'm going to be there at night time. There might not actually be that many cars. Maybe I could just go across the bridge, but it is actually breaking the laws of Normandicat. So I'm definitely not doing that, because break the laws and you're disqualified, right? So that really got me a little bit concerned that Strava has been putting me on roads that I shouldn't actually be on. I've actually had this happen before when Steve and I were cycle touring in Marseille. Well, no cycle tour is complete without a route mapping semi-failure. It's not that we aren't following the right directions, but our route has told us to go onto this road, and the entrance to this road said bikes are not allowed. So that was a Strava route. And I sort of went back and wondered, Strava uses heat map resourcing to determine what routes people are riding. So either a few people are riding those roads illegally, which is plausible. I have another theory. Actually, Steve had the theory and I agree with him, in that we're in France, Tour de France comes here, Tour de France professional riders in the peloton upload their rides into Strava. It's quite plausible that quite a lot of riders have ridden these said roads on closed roads conditions, and so the road rules don't apply to them, and maybe that's mucking up the Strava heat software. So just something for you guys to think about if you're using Strava to plot routes in France. In the main, I found Strava to be really, really good, but this was a little bit of a quirk. Okay, so I scrubbed the route from Strava. I thought, all right, that's it. I'm just going to go into Ride with GPS and do it that way. Anyway, I spent quite a lot of time on Ride with GPS making a route, and then I would say half a day, and then for some reason, my whole route just didn't save. Onto some frustrated, tired training tears maybe. Bella had a little bit of a wobbly moment, and I'm putting it down to training fatigue, but I was just, Strava had failed me. I thought I'd worked through Ride with GPS and it was all good, and then I lost everything. So I was back to square one. I actually bought a paper map of Normandy. I was wondering whether I just go old school and use it, but ultimately I want a GPX file to navigate from my Garmin so that when I'm tired and it tells me which way to go, I alert to that. So I did some online searching and I ended up signing up for the Komoot Premium, and I have got my route now through Komoot. Yoo! And the great thing that I'm learning about Komoot, it does seem to be intrinsically a bit more user-friendly. I really like the ability of saying that I would like to also just visually see on the map places for shops, so like supermarkets. I can see where there's public water fountains, where there might be public toilets, where there's places to eat, where there's accommodation. And when I'm making my map and my route, I can then go to say, I want to, yep, that's cool. I might want to eat in this village. And then I can say, let me see where all the places to eat are. And then bang, I see something, I go, yeah, I want to do that. And I can just right click and say, yes, include en route. And then it adds it to my timeline. So that's been really, really good. I do laugh at the fact that someone who's barely eaten McDonald's much in the last decade or so has got lots of little burger icons on the timeline appearing, because McDonald's is potentially a really valid routing strategy and refuel strategy for me. But I have really liked that feature for Komoot, so big thumbs up there. The other thing that I have struggled with, or not struggled with, but it's been a constant in my head, is trying to work out a strategy in terms of timing and how far I can conceivably potentially ride for each day, and where will that leave me on the said route. So I struggled with how to figure this out, I actually reached out to some ultra cyclists that I know through social media, and they've been so helpful. And I have put together, with the help of Steve, a little Google Sheet schedule. And what it shows me is time of departure and splits down the hours. So planning the schedule out and breaking it down hour by hour and looking at estimates of what I might be averaging speed-wise. And I've sort of got a few tabs going now as well. So I have optimistic and, slower as options. So optimistically, if everything's going the right way, this is what it might look like for me. Or, maybe optimistic is, great form and tailwind. Realistic might be, I don't even know what realistic is. I've not done anything like this before. Sometimes I get wound up and think it's just crazy that, I was looking at the map and thinking there's a logical place where I might be able to stay that's a sort of bigger place, about 50,000 people, which has got, bigger hotels and, facilities for food and whatnot. And then I looked at it and I thought, if I do end up there, it means on that first day I'm riding 380 kilometres. I get scared saying that number out loud because I don't know what I'm going to be like riding 380 kilometres, yet alone not having slept for a whole night. And navigating through Versailles, which comes at 300 kilometres, assuming I travel in a clockwise direction. Then there's a logical side to my brain as well, thinking, I know that 300 kilometres is definitely doable for me in a day. So if I'm not sleeping at night, surely that little bit further I can extrapolate as well. It's all unknown. But the schedule is good for a few things as well. It'll be able to sort of show me roughly what does good look like, what does wobbly look like, how many hours do I have to play with here as well. The other thing that's been really good is adding in little bits and pieces like where I can logically look to stop for food and topping up water as well. Now, something also that I noticed which was quite interesting, having the experience of using different routing or mapping software to plug my route into, I also, when I downloaded the GPX file, just out of curiosity thought, well, let me upload this into each of those platforms and see what sort of elevation it's all spitting out. So the route on Strava, which is around, it's just under 900 kilometres. The route on Strava gives me, I think, 8,680 metres odd of climbing. Now, that's what I expected, about 1,000 metres of climbing for every 100 kilometres ridden. So that's what I've had in my mind in all this time of training. Interestingly enough, the exact same GPX file on Ride with GPS spits out an elevation of just over 6,000 metres, quite a bit less. In fact, 30% less elevation estimated on Ride with GPS for the exact same route as the Strava route platform. And then Komoot is giving me just under 7,000 metres of climbing, so a little bit more, somewhere in the middle. I put it out there to some people about, well, what Strava or what route profile would be correct? What do you think the elevation estimation will be? Do you think one's more likely than the other? And someone recommended that I use OpenRunner and put it through there, because apparently OpenRunner is known as being very conservative with elevation data, so what's in there is likely going to be the minimum. I put it into OpenRunner and it gave me a total different number altogether again, about 7,500 metres of climbing. So somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 metres of climbing over the same distance. I don't know which one it's going to be, and of course nothing's to say that the Garmin that I use for all my navigation is actually going to give me a correct elevation gain by the end of it either. So let's just hope I have enough energy in the legs for whatever the climbing's going to be like. And sure as hell, while there's going to be lots of up and downs, I've been training in these here mountains. They're not hills anymore, they're definitely mountains. And I know that I'm not going to hit anything in Normandy that's going to give me, see me climbing for an hour and a half at the most. So let's hope all this training comes to good use. Now it's just time to self-belief, believe in the head, put my whole fueling strategy and training strategy into practice and see what I end up with. I'm really in the final stages of bike preparation as well. I had a really bad mechanical on my rear wheel. The actual bearings and ratchets on my free hub at the back totally went on me. saw me stranded mid-ride. But that's all been resolved. I eventually got all the spare parts and we got that all sorted. I have got a 12 to 34 cassette to go onto the back of my bike, which will give me some extra climbing gears. And I've got a new chain to go on, I've got new bar tape to go on, new tyres to go on. Everything's going to be peachy. I'm going to be peachy. I've trained so hard for this. Let's just see how we go. But that's it for now. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the thumbs up you've given me and all the comments of support. I'm going to be challenging them for sure through the night and through many, many hours. All the training's done, the bike's almost ready, I'm ready, let's see how we go. I may or may not get another video update before the event, but yeah, wish me well. Thank you once again. A bientôt.